Do you believe in love at first sight? That moment when a single glance changes everything, sparking a connection so powerful it reshapes lives, kingdoms, even the course of history. For centuries, poets and storytellers have explored this very idea. But what happened when these instant passions ignited in the unpredictable, often brutal world of the Middle Ages, from around 500 AD to 1500 AD? Prepare yourself for 10 tales where a single look launched epic adventures, devastating tragedies, and unbreakable bonds, proving that some loves are truly born in a flash and leave an eternal mark. Number 10. Sir Gareth and Lyoness. The courts of King Arthur were known for their knights, their quests, and occasionally their surprising turns of fate. One day, a young man arrived at Camelot, asking for the lowliest position available, a kitchen knave. He was disguised, calling himself Beaumains, and was initially ridiculed by everyone except Sir Lancelot. This was Sir Gareth of Orkney, nephew to King Arthur himself, secretly seeking to prove his worth. His chance came when a noblewoman, Lady Lyoness of the Redlands, arrived at court, pleading for a champion to rescue her from a fearsome knight who held her lands captive. Lyoness was beautiful, with a proud bearing that commanded attention. As soon as Gareth saw her, a powerful feeling surged through him. He thought her incredibly fair, and in that very moment, as recorded in Sir Thomas Malory's La Morte d'Arthur, his heart was captured. He fell instantly in love with her. This sudden, overwhelming affection became the driving force for everything that followed. He immediately stepped forward, despite his disguise and the mockery of others, and vowed to be her champion. Lady Lyoness, however, was not impressed. She saw only a kitchen boy, scorned his offer, and treated him with disdain, refusing to even speak to him directly, instead addressing him through the king or Lancelot. Consequence of Gareth's instant love was a grueling, perilous journey. To prove himself worthy of her, he had to endure Lyoness's verbal abuse and defeat a series of formidable knights, each more challenging than the last. He first encountered the Black Knight, whose strength was legendary, and Gareth fought with a ferocity fueled by his desire to win Lyoness's approval. He then faced the Green Knight, the Puce Knight, and finally the Red Knight of the Redlands, the very tyrant holding Lyoness captive. Each victory was hard won, a testament to his skill and his burning instant devotion to the lady who still treated him with scorn. His journey was fraught with danger, near fatal wounds, and constant challenges, all undertaken for a woman who seemed to despise him. As Gareth continued to defeat her tormentors and prove his noble spirit, Lyoness's perception of him slowly began to change. Her disdain softened, turning first to respect, then admiration, and finally, love for the heroic knight who had defied her expectations. The immediate consequence of Gareth's instantaneous love was his personal transformation from an unknown kitchen worker to a celebrated knight. But the ultimate consequence was the complex dance of courtship that followed. Lyoness, now deeply in love with him, subjected him to further tests, including a magical enchantment that made it impossible for them to be together physically until they were formally married, ensuring his purity of intention. This magical test, orchestrated by her sister, Dame Lynette, further proved Gareth's unwavering loyalty and love. Their initial spark, though unreciprocated in that first moment by Lyoness, ultimately led to a grand wedding at Camelot, solidifying Gareth's place among Arthur's finest knights and cementing a powerful, enduring union. This instant, love led not to tragedy, but to heroic achievement and a lasting happiness, a rare and welcome outcome in the often somber medieval world. Number 9. Palamon and Emelye. In Geoffrey Chaucer's The Knight's Tale, part of the Canterbury Tales, the story begins with two noble cousins, Palamon and Arcite, both captive knights from Thebes, imprisoned in a tower in Athens. Their lives were bleak, defined by the confines of their cell. But one spring morning, their fate and their hearts were irrevocably altered by a single fleeting sight. From their high prison window, they looked down into the palace garden below, a vibrant burst of green and color after the drabness of their captivity. There, walking among the flowers, was Emelye, the young sister of the Queen of Athens, gathering blossoms and singing. Both Palamon and Arcite saw her at the exact same moment. For Palamon, the first to cry out, her beauty was a blinding revelation, and he immediately felt a love so profound it seemed to pierce his very soul. He cried out, convinced she was a goddess. Arcite, hearing Palamon's exclamation, also looked and, seeing Emelye, felt an equally intense, overwhelming, and instant love for her. Their shared plight as prisoners, their lifelong bond of kinship, shattered in that instant. Consequence of this simultaneous love at first sight was immediate and devastating. Their deep friendship dissolved into bitter rivalry and fierce animosity. Their instant, undeniable love for Emelye became an obsession, dominating their every thought and action. Arcite was eventually released from prison, but banished from Athens, condemned to live without seeing Emelye. Palamon, still imprisoned, suffered in despair, haunted by the knowledge that Arcite might find a way to reach her. Years later, Palamon escaped, and by a twist of fate, he and Arcite, both still consumed by their love for Emelye, accidentally met in a forest near Athens. Their long, simmering rivalry exploded into a brutal duel, each fighting to the death for the woman neither had truly spoken to since that fateful morning in the garden. Their desperate combat was interrupted by Duke Theseus, the ruler of Athens, who, upon learning the cause of their fight, decided to hold a grand tournament. 100 knights would fight on each side, with Palamon and Arcite as the champions, and the victor would win Emelye's hand. Consequence of their instant love now escalated to a massive conflict, dragging many others into their personal battle. Each knight prayed to a different god. Palamon to Venus, the goddess of love, for Emelye's hand; Arcite to Mars, the god of war, for victory in battle; and Emelye to Diana, the goddess of chastity, to remain unmarried or to marry the one who loved her most truly. On the day of the tournament, the clash of arms was immense. Arcite, aided by Mars, won the battle, securing his right to Emelye. But in a cruel twist of fate, as he rode triumphantly around the arena, a sudden divine intervention from Saturn, at Venus's plea, caused his horse to shy, throwing him and fatally injuring him. Consequence of his instant love and his victory in the tournament was his own untimely death. After a period of mourning, Palamon, whose love for Emelye had remained constant and true, eventually married her. The initial instantaneous love of 2 men for 1 woman led to a broken friendship. Years of suffering, a grand and bloody tournament, and the death of one of the lovers. It was a stark reminder that even the most beautiful first sight can lead to a long and tragic path. Number 8. Dante and Beatrice. The love story of Dante Alighieri and Beatrice Portinari is not a conventional medieval romance, but rather a profound spiritual journey documented in Dante's Vita Nuova and woven into the very fabric of his monumental Divine Comedy. For Dante, the love he felt for Beatrice was instantaneous, ethereal, and utterly Greek from the moment he first saw her. He claims to have first encountered Beatrice when he was a mere 9 years old, and she was nearly the same age. Even at such a tender age, the sight of her dressed in a noble, modest crimson gown had an immediate, profound impact on him. This was not a childish crush, but something far deeper and more mystical, a spiritual recognition that instantly elevated her to a divine figure in his young mind. He describes feeling a tremor pass through him, a spirit of life awakening in his heart, and the very structure of his being shifted in that singular moment. This initial, intense connection was not of the physical world, but deeply spiritual. 9 years later, at the age of 18, Dante saw Beatrice again on a street in Florence. She was dressed in white, and this time she greeted him with a simple nod and a smile. This seemingly small gesture caused an even greater surge of overwhelming emotion in Dante. Her greeting was like a divine blessing, filling him with an indescribable joy that immediately permeated his entire being. This renewed encounter reaffirmed the instant pure love he felt, solidifying her as the singular object of his devotion and the inspiration for his life's work. Consequence of this instantaneous love was a lifelong dedication to her memory, transforming his internal world and shaping his external literary output. Beatrice, a real woman of Florence, was married to another man and died at a young age. Dante's love for her remained largely unrequited in a physical sense, and he deliberately kept his feelings private, often using screen ladies in his poetry to deflect attention from Beatrice and protect her reputation. This secrecy eventually led to Beatrice withdrawing her greeting, a consequence that caused Dante immense suffering and further intensified his spiritual anguish. Her early death plunged him into deep despair, but it also cemented her role as his guide and muse. The ultimate consequence of Dante's instant and spiritual love for Beatrice was the creation of some of the most enduring and influential works of Western literature. In the Vita Nuova, meaning new life, he chronicles his love, his grief, and his spiritual awakening through a series of poems and prose commentaries. Most famously, in the Divine Comedy, Beatrice becomes his divine guide through paradise, leading him through the celestial spheres towards the ultimate vision of God. This profound literary achievement, a journey from hell to heaven, was directly inspired by his initial, unshakable, and spiritual love for Beatrice. Her singular appearance in his life and the immediate impact she had transformed a poet's personal devotion into an epic spiritual quest that continues to resonate centuries later, proving that love at first sight can transcend earthly bounds and inspire immortal art. Number 7. Yvain and Laudon. Chrétien de Troyes' Yvain, the Knight of the Lion, presents a particularly dark and complex tale of love at first sight. Sir Yvain, a knight of King Arthur's Round Table, sets out on an adventure to a magical fountain in the enchanted forest of Broceliande. He seeks to defeat the mysterious knight who guards the fountain, Esclados the Red. Yvain triumphs, mortally wounding Esclados in a brutal duel. He then pursues the dying knight back to his castle, where he hides and witnesses the funeral procession. It is during this somber ceremony that Yvain sees Laudine, the grieving widow of the knight he has just slain. Despite the context of her immense sorrow, Laudine's beauty strikes Yvain with overwhelming force. In that singular moment, a profound and instant love ignites within him. He is captivated by her grace, her sorrow, and her noble bearing. The paradox is stark. He has just killed her husband, and now he is instantly, desperately in love with her. This sudden, violent attraction sets the stage for the rest of his story. The immediate consequence of this love at first sight, born from conquest, is a fervent desire to win her, a desire that seems almost monstrous given the circumstances. Yvain's instant love for Laudine is so intense that his squire, Luned, a clever and loyal maiden, must employ cunning and manipulation to make their union possible. She speaks to Laudine's advisors, convincing them that the land needs a strong protector, and that Yvain, the knight who defeated Esclados, is the most powerful choice. Luned frames Yvain as a necessary husband, not as the slayer of Laudine's beloved. Blinded by the need for protection, and perhaps swayed by a mysterious, almost hypnotic charm, Laudine agrees. Consequence of Yvain's instant love is a hasty marriage, barely a week after her husband's death. a union forged not out of mutual courtship, but out of Yvain's instant desire and Lunette's clever machinations. Initially, their marriage is happy, a strange bliss born from tragic circumstances. However, the consequences of Yvain's instant love continue to unfold. Urged by his cousin Sir Gawain, Yvain decides to leave Laudine to pursue knightly adventures, promising to return within a year. His thirst for glory, a common trait among Arthurian knights, outweighs his initial devotion. He becomes so engrossed in his adventures that he breaks his solemn vow, failing to return to Laudine by the appointed time. This broken promise is a direct consequence of his inability to balance his instant passion with his knightly duties and the true responsibilities of marriage. Laudine, devastated by his betrayal, sends a messenger to denounce him and reclaim the ring she gave him as a token of their love. Consequence of his broken promise born from that instant love is her profound rejection, which drives Yvain to madness and despair. He flees into the wilderness, living like a wild man. His journey of redemption, becoming the Knight of the Lion, through acts of selflessness and bravery, is a long and arduous path. It is only through Lunette's continued aid and cleverness that he is eventually reconciled with Laudine, a reconciliation that is hard-won and conditional, never quite returning to the blissful, if strange, beginning. Yvain's instant love led to a quick problematic marriage, followed by broken vows, madness, and a difficult, arduous road to a fragile form of forgiveness. Number 6. Lanval and the Fairy Queen. Sir Lanval, a knight in King Arthur's court, found himself an outsider. Though noble and brave, he was often overlooked and unrewarded, living in relative poverty while other knights flourished. Feeling dejected and alone, he rode out into the countryside, seeking solitude. His journey led him to a serene river, where he dismounted ready for a moment of quiet reflection. Suddenly, two beautiful maidens appeared, dressed in rich, exotic garments. They spoke to him, inviting him to follow them to their mistress. Intrigued, Lanval complied, and they led him to a magnificent, exquisitely embroidered tent. Inside, upon a bed of gold, lay a woman of breathtaking beauty, fairer than any he had ever seen, even Queen Guinevere herself. As soon as Lanval's eyes met hers, he was utterly captivated. A powerful, immediate love surged through him, instant and undeniable. She too seemed to feel an immediate connection, for she revealed herself as a queen from a distant, magical land, declaring her love for him. This meeting, recounted in Marie de France's Lay, was a moment of pure, fantastical love at first sight. The immediate consequence of this instant mutual love was an extraordinary offer. The Fairy Queen promised Lanval her love, immense wealth, and unending happiness on one crucial condition. He must never, under any circumstances, reveal their relationship or speak of her existence to anyone. If he did, he would lose her forever. Lanval, overwhelmed with love and gratitude, readily agreed to this vow. He returned to Arthur's court, his fortunes mysteriously reversed. He was now exceptionally generous, lavishing gifts and performing great deeds, all thanks to the unseen bounty of his fairy lover. However, the consequences of his instant love, tied to a secret, soon became perilous. Queen Guinevere, noticing Lanval's sudden prosperity and his refusal of her own advances, felt slighted. In a fit of pique and wounded pride, she accused him of being a homosexual and insulted his manhood. In his anger and defense, Lanval, breaking his solemn promise, foolishly boasted that his own lady was so beautiful that even the lowest of her maidservants was fairer than the queen herself. This breach of his vow was the direct, catastrophic consequence of his instant, passionate love. Guinevere, enraged by the comparison, demanded that Lanval be brought to trial for treason and insult. Lanval, now stripped of his fairy mistress's protection, found himself in dire straits. He was abandoned, impoverished once more, and facing certain death. Just as he was about to be condemned, the Fairy Queen made a dramatic, magical appearance. She arrived on a magnificent white palfrey, dazzling all who saw her, and publicly validated Lanval's boast, proving her beauty surpassed even the Queen's. She saved him from the gallows. The ultimate consequence of their instant love, and the broken vow that stemmed from it, was a fantastical escape from the human world. Lanval mounted her horse, and together they rode off, disappearing into the mythical island of Avalon, forever abandoning his earthly life and duties. Their love, born in a magical instant, led to a life of secret bliss, a public betrayal, and a permanent, otherworldly retreat from the mundane world. Number 5. Aucassin and Nicolette. The medieval French chant fable, Aucassin and Nicolette, tells a tale of instant passionate love that defied all social conventions and parental opposition. Aucassin was the noble son of the Count of Beaucaire, destined for a grand marriage and a life of power. Nicolette was a Saracen captive, purchased by his father in infancy and raised in their household. Despite their vastly different stations, their connection was immediate and profound. From the moment they first met, Aucassin and Nicolette were instantly, overwhelmingly in love. Aucassin was utterly captivated by her beauty, her grace, and her noble spirit, despite her slave status. He declared his love with an intensity that shocked his father, stating he would rather go to hell with Nicolette than to heaven without her. This was not a slow burning affection, but a sudden, undeniable, and all-consuming passion. The immediate consequence of this instant, socially forbidden love was immense parental disapproval and relentless attempts to separate the young lovers. Aucassin's father, Count Garin, was furious at his son's infatuation with a captive girl. He forbade their union and tried every means to break them apart. Aucassin, however, refused to engage in knightly duties or lead his father's army against their enemies unless he was allowed to see Nicolette. Consequence of his instant love was a standoff with his powerful father, threatening the stability of their region. His father imprisoned Nicolette in a tower and threatened to burn her at the stake, hoping to break Aucassin's will. This extreme measure was a direct result of the forbidden nature of their immediate bond. Despite imprisonment and the constant threat of death, their love remained unshaken. Nicolette, with remarkable courage and cunning, escaped her tower prison, navigating through the night and past her guards. Aucassin, consumed by despair at her absence, also managed to escape his own confinement. The consequences of their instant love spiraled into a series of perilous adventures and desperate journeys. They traveled separately through vast, dangerous forests, encountered hostile shepherds, and faced the perils of the open sea. Nicolette, disguised as a minstrel, even discovered her true noble birth, revealing she was the daughter of the King of Carthage, stolen in childhood. After much suffering, separation, and extraordinary coincidence, their instant love ultimately led to a joyful reunion. Nicolette, after returning to Carthage and arranging her disguise as a minstrel, traveled back to Beaucaire. She found Aucassin, who was heartbroken and pining for her. They recognized each other, and their immediate rekindled joy was palpable. The final consequence of their powerful instant love was their triumphant marriage with the now revealed Princess Nicolette, marrying her beloved Aucassin, who became the Count of Beaucaire. Their tale stands as a testament to love's ability to overcome immense social barriers and harsh adversities, driven by a connection forged in a single unwavering glance. Number 4. Floris and Blanchefleur. popular medieval romance of Floris and Blanchefleur tells the story of two young souls whose affection, born from shared childhood, blossomed into an instant profound love that reshaped their lives. Floris was a Christian prince, son of the King of Aragon. Blanchefleur was a Saracen captive, brought to the court and raised alongside Floris from infancy. They shared lessons, games, and every aspect of their upbringing, developing an inseparable bond. As they grew into adolescence, their innocent childhood affection transformed into something far deeper and more passionate. Text implies a moment where this long-standing connection suddenly revealed itself as true love, an undeniable, intense feeling that was as powerful as if they were adults, making them sick for love at the thought of separation. This was not a gradual realization, but an overwhelming recognition of a love that had always been there, now blossoming with the force of an instant, mature passion. The immediate consequence of this intense, young love was the horror and disapproval of Floris's parents. Floris's parents were outraged by their son's love for a captive, an unbaptized Saracen girl. They viewed it as a disgraceful attachment that threatened the royal lineage. The direct consequence of this forbidden instant love was a cruel plot. While Floris was away at school, his parents had Blanchefleur sold into slavery, sending her to a distant land to serve in the harem of the Emir of Babylon, hoping to extinguish the scandalous affair. This act of separation was a desperate attempt to sever a bond they saw as a grave threat. When Floris returned and discovered Blanchefleur's absence, he was consumed by grief and despair. Consequence of his instant passionate love was a perilous, relentless quest to find her. He abandoned his princely duties and set out alone, driven by an unwavering determination to reunite with his beloved. His journey was fraught with danger and required immense cunning. He traveled disguised as a merchant, followed clues and spent lavishly to gain information, crossing vast seas and foreign lands. He faced thieves, suspicion, and the constant fear of never seeing Blanchefleur again, yet his love pushed him onward. Floris eventually tracked Blanchefleur to the Emir's Tower of Maidens in Babylon, a fortress where hundreds of beautiful young women were kept. Through cleverness and bribery, he managed to enter the tower. He found Blanchefleur, destined to become one of the Emir's concubines, and their reunion was filled with overwhelming joy, a testament to the enduring power of their initial instant love. However, the consequence of their reunion was nearly fatal. They were discovered by the Emir, who, enraged by their trespass, ordered their immediate execution. Yet, their profound love, their unwavering devotion, and their willingness to die for each other moved the Emir to an unexpected compassion. He was so impressed by their purity and commitment that he not only spared them, but also allowed them to marry. The ultimate consequence of their instant forbidden love was a triumphant marriage, and Floris's eventual ascension to the throne, ruling alongside his beloved queen. Their love, born from a sudden, passionate recognition, triumphed over separation, peril, and powerful opposition, leading to a long and happy life together. Number 3. Troilus and Chryside. In Geoffrey Chaucer's epic poem, Troilus and Chryside, the city of Troy is besieged by the Greeks, and life is grim. Prince Troilus, a valiant warrior, holds a cynical view of love, mocking those who fall under its sway. He considers himself immune to its follies. But one day, fate intervenes with a single wan glance. During a religious festival in the temple, Troilus observes the crowd, still secure in his aloofness. Then he sees her, Chryside, a beautiful widow dressed in a black veil, elegant and graceful, despite her recent bereavement. In that singular moment, his world shattered. Her beauty, her modesty, and her dignified sorrow struck him with an overwhelming force. All his previous disdain for love vanished, replaced by an instant consuming passion. He was hopelessly, desperately in love. This was not a gradual attraction, but a sudden, piercing revelation that turned his entire being upside down. The immediate consequence of this instant love at first sight was Troilus's descent into profound, secret suffering. He became withdrawn, losing his appetite and sleep, consumed by a love he felt he could never confess. His suffering was so great that his cunning and well-meaning friend, Pandarus, Chryside's uncle, noticed his distress. Consequence of Troilus's instant love, combined with his inability to act, led Pandarus to orchestrate an elaborate and sometimes deceptive plan to bring the two lovers together. Through flattery, manipulation, and intricate schemes, Pandarus eventually convinced Chryside to reciprocate Troilus's affection. Their secret affair began, a period of intense joy and passionate devotion. For a time, their love flourished in the shadow of war, a fleeting haven of happiness. However, the relentless conflict of the Trojan War brought devastating consequences to their instant love. Due to a political exchange agreed upon by the Trojan Council, Chryside was to be traded to the Greeks in exchange for a Trojan prisoner, Antenor. Despite their tearful pleas and promises of eternal fidelity, they were forced to separate. The consequence of their deep instant love was agonizing heartbreak as Chryside departed for the Greek camp, leaving Troilus behind, utterly bereft. In the Greek camp, Chryside, under the influence of the cunning Greek warrior Diomedes and the pressures of her new environment, eventually broke her promise to Troilus. She gradually transferred her affections to Diomedes. Troilus, tormented by her absence and increasingly suspicious, received subtle clues of her betrayal, culminating in the agonizing recognition of her brooch on Diomedes' armor. The ultimate consequence of his instant devoted love was profound emotional devastation, betrayal, and unbearable grief. His hope, once vibrant, was utterly crushed. He sought death in battle, fighting fiercely against the Greeks until he was finally slain by Achilles. As his spirit ascended to the heavens, Troilus looked down upon the fleeting nature of earthly love, a final, sorrowful reflection on the consequences of his instant, all-consuming passion amidst the chaos of war. His instant love led to fleeting joy, profound heartbreak, and a tragic end. Number 2. Lancelot and Guinevere. Few tales of love in the Middle Ages resonate with the same tragic power as that of Lancelot and Guinevere. Sir Lancelot du Lac arrived at King Arthur's court, already celebrated as the greatest knight in the world. He was renowned for his strength, his courage, and his peerless skill in combat. But for all his worldly fame, his heart was about to be captured by a single unforgettable sight. The moment Lancelot first saw Queen Guinevere, wife of his liege King Arthur, he was utterly captivated. Her beauty, her grace, and her regal presence struck him with an overwhelming force. It was an instant, undeniable love, as depicted in Chrétien de Troyes' Lancelot, the Knight of the Cart, and later amplified by Sir Thomas Malory in La Morte d'Arthur. In that single glance, his devotion to her became absolute, overshadowing all other loyalties, even to his king and the Round Table. The immediate consequence of this powerful instant love was a profound internal conflict within Lancelot, torn between his fealty and his forbidden desire. Lancelot's love for Guinevere grew into a passionate, secret affair that began to define his life. Their clandestine meetings, their stolen moments, and their deep emotional connection became the core of their existence. Consequences of this instant forbidden love began to spread like a silent poison through the court of Camelot. Whispers and rumors, though initially dismissed, slowly eroded the trust and honor that held the Round Table together. Lancelot's unparalleled prowess in tournament and battle was always in service to Guinevere. his every deed a testament to his instant, unshakable devotion to her. The long-term consequences of their instant love were catastrophic. Eventually, the affair was discovered, primarily by Sir Mordred, Arthur's illegitimate son and bitter enemy. The revelation shattered King Arthur, who was forced by law and honor to condemn Guinevere to death. Lancelot, true to his instant, unwavering love, rescued her from the pyre, leading to open war between Lancelot and Arthur. This was the ultimate consequence of their love at first sight, the unraveling of an entire kingdom. The civil war that ensued was devastating. Knights of the Round Table were forced to choose sides, tearing apart friendships and families. Battles were fought, great knights were slain, and the very foundation of Camelot crumbled. The siege of Lancelot's castle, Joyous Gard, and the ensuing bloody conflicts decimated Arthur's forces. While Arthur was distracted by the war with Lancelot, Mordred seized the throne, leading to the final fatal battle of Camlan, where Arthur was mortally wounded. The direct result of Lancelot's instant love for Guinevere was the destruction of the glorious kingdom of Camelot, the end of the Round Table, and the death of King Arthur himself. In the end, Lancelot and Guinevere separated, spending their remaining days in monastic repentance, a somber final consequence of a love born in an instant that brought down an empire. Number 1. Tristan and Isolde. The medieval tale of Tristan and Isolde is perhaps the quintessential story of love at first sight, made irrevocably powerful by a magical intervention, leading to a life defined by deception and ultimate tragedy. Tristan, a noble knight and nephew to King Mark of Cornwall, is sent to Ireland to bring back the beautiful princess Isolde the Fair to be his uncle's bride. It is a journey fraught with destiny. During the sea voyage back to Cornwall, a maidservant accidentally gives Tristan and Isolde a love potion intended for Isolde and King Mark. They drink it together, unaware of its potent magic. The moment the potion takes effect, their hearts are irrevocably bound. It is an instant, overwhelming, and utterly irresistible love that sweeps over them. They fall desperately, passionately, and unyieldingly in love with each other. This magical compulsion solidifies their love at first sight into an unbreakable, fated bond. The immediate consequence of this enchanted instant love is a life of profound deception, as Isolde must still marry King Mark while her heart belongs entirely to Tristan. Their instant potion induced love traps them in a treacherous triangle. They embark on a desperate, secret affair, constantly devising elaborate schemes and cunning tricks to hide their forbidden love from King Mark and his suspicious court. Consequences of their instant forced love become a relentless series of challenges, false accusations, near discoveries, judicial trials by ordeal, often involving magical deceptions to prove their innocence, and periods of forced exile in the wilderness where they live a harsh life for their bond. They endure immense suffering, always on the run, their love a constant source of both ecstasy and agony. Despite the dangers and the constant threat of exposure, their instant love for each other remains absolute. However, the external pressures and their desperate circumstances eventually lead to their separation. Tristan, believing Isolde has abandoned him or been unfaithful, marries another woman, Isolde of the White Hands, out of despair and loneliness, though he never truly loves her. This act creates another layer of tragic consequence, stemming from his original instant and magically compelled love. The ultimate consequence of their instant fated love is a double tragedy. Years later, Tristan is mortally wounded by a poisoned spear. He sends for Isolde the Fair, knowing only she can heal him. He arranges for a ship to signal her arrival with a white sail or a black sail as she is not coming. His wife, Isolde of the White Hands, out of jealousy, deceives him, telling him the ship carries a black sail, even as Isolde the Fair approaches with a white one. Believing his beloved has abandoned him, Tristan dies of a broken heart. Moments later, Iseult the Fair arrives, finds him dead, and collapses beside him, dying of grief. Their instant, powerful, and potion-fueled love led to a life of secret passion, constant fear, separation, and ultimately a tragic, intertwined death, forever etched into the medieval imagination.